In 1970, 30% of us were poor. Today, only 23% of us are. What happened to all these people? They moved into the rich categories. In 1970, 19% of us were rich. Today, 38% of us are rich. This over the course of 50 years. If that trend continues for just 30 more, 30 years from now, half of us will be rich and only 10% of us will be poor. Is there inequality up there on that high end? Absolutely there is. Compare Jeff Bezos to Bill Gates to Warren Buffett to whoever else you want to name. Yeah, there's inequality up there, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that left-hand section is shrinking, and it's shrinking steadily year after year. Finally, even if we do measure income inequality correctly, we tend not to understand it. We confuse it with poverty. This is the world in 1800, and that bubble, the height, represents a number of people, and its position, left to right, indicates income. So you're looking at the distribution of world income in 1800. And in 1800, oh, and by the way, you see that vertical line there? That's today's official definition of extreme poverty. Again, everything's adjusted for inflation. In 1800, that's how the world divided out. The poor, the middle class, the rich. And look at that. A decent chunk of the rich in 1800 were what today we would call poor. They were living at what today we consider the poverty line. That's the world in 1800. Now, I'm going to move time forward and watch what happens to this distribution. Now let's pause here in 1980, because this is the point where people start to really start talking about issues of equality around the world. And they looked at this, and what did they see? They saw a tremendous number of poor people over there on the left. The red is largely India and China. And then they looked over here on the right. The yellow is United States, Canada. The green is Europe. And they said, look, we're all rich and all these other people are poor. There's tremendous inequality here. We need to do something. What they were missing is they forgot where they came from. We didn't have a bunch of Chinese and Indians in 1980 who were poor because the rest of us made them poor. We were all poor. Some of us escaped. Some of us remained. Now, I'm not suggesting we shouldn't be concerned. I am, however, putting it into perspective that this was not a situation of one part of the world making the other part of the world poor. In fact, watch what happens as time advances. India and China start to catch up. And where do you end up? You end up here. Think back to the picture I gave you of 1800, where almost all of humanity was below the poverty line. Today, almost all of humanity is above it. Do we have inequality? Of course we do. Look at that big wide bubble there. We've got people who have tremendous amount, people who have less. What do we tend not to have? We tend not to have extreme poverty, not nearly in the way we had it 100, 200 years ago. And often when we get concerned about issues of inequality, it's not the inequality that viscerally is bothering us, it's the poverty. It's very important that we keep these two distinct.